analysts, because now a lot of people say that analysts will die out like dinosaurs. No, analysts are eternal. And to understand that, you have to understand the definition of analysts. And this definition is the analyst is an expert in changes. All changes in work, in life, you have to give it some thought, some consideration. So while we are changing, moving in some direction, we need analysts. The only problem with analysts is the current situation, because during this year we had two very bad crises, and I think we'll have even more. We lived through the fourth industrial revolution, and soon we'll have the fifth revolution, where we understand that the data are even more valuable than the real material world, and then we'll be uploaded to Matrix ourselves. But there is one method to keep up on the top of the wave of this data flow. And because, like when we are overwhelmed with information, with different stress, it's very dangerous, because the teams, the people are burnt out, overloaded, and that is not what we need. Fortunately, we have so-called DDD domain. So now I'll talk about three principles of DDD. What is DD? Actually, what is DAAP and DAS? Okay, so the three principles you've probably heard of already. So what is domain-driven design? It's decentralized distributed system with minimum dependencies. And here it's very interesting that all of you probably know that and feel that wherever you go, wherever you get, whatever work you do, everybody tries to be owner of this distributed flows, and it's based on three principles. One is restricted context, single language, etc. So we'll talk about these contexts separately now. So first of all, restricted context. For example, we have an area of problem solution which we can compose. So we have a problem which is resolved within some task, so it's a separate domain. And each of these domains has its own restricted context. I mean, the words, the entities, the attributes are defined within themselves, and they might not coincide at all with the context of another domain. For example, let's take a word onion, Russian word onion. In Russian, it might mean a weapon and a vegetable. So that's why when talking to the customer, we talk about DRP. Some people talk about it as a kickoff plan and like distribution requirement plan, and another person might talk about it as a disaster recovery plan. So if we are talking about some entity of a buyer, maybe you don't need 200 attributes inside this entity like your colleagues from another department needs, like settlement accounts, etc. Maybe you need only 2 or 3 positions, like a phone number, etc. The single language. It's also a problem now, because we are all now in different communities, having different skills, etc. Sometimes people in one team don't understand each other. We have to set up connections, relations between them, and this is the work of analysts. In my projects, where there are a lot of data used, there are data engineers, then business analysts who collect requirements, and also BI engineers and DSs. So this analyst is smiling on the slide, but normally they shouldn't smile, because they have to understand what they collect, I mean the data that they collect. And others who process it after them, they have to also understand the point, the sense of data he's working with. So there are always some frictions because the data engineer should understand the value of this data to work with them efficiently. So same picture we observed 5-10 years ago when our development and operations were combined in one, and we got DevOps and new role in team. Here we also have to decide whether we finally get together, or find one single language which we use. Here we have a lot of different very complex terms like layers, onions, hexagons, etc. But it doesn't matter. We have to move from business logic. Whatever situation we get in, the first question we have to answer: which problem do we resolve now? If we understand that we are resolving this particular problem, this is the logic, then we choose the tools which are aimed at this particular problem. It doesn't matter who does that. I think we had Kindle and Kimmer competing. One said that we have to level the access to data, normalize it, and then give the possibility to the users to come to a beautifully designed system. And others said that everything had to be based on business logic. And I think it's more rational to be based on business logic primarily. What is DD actually, and where is the third D lost? DD is a very frequently used definition, data-driven. The situation that we are drowning in the flow of data and we have to break that down into categories somehow and manage it. So if we imagine this picture without black lines, these are our small domains, then we see that yes, we get evolution, we can add some solutions for new problems. The scaling up will be very convenient. We'll have evolution because each domain will inside itself resolve the problems and evolve independent of other domains. But at the same time, we have such problems as lack of understanding between the domains and lack of trust between them. You saw this friction on the second and third slides related to data engineers. Now they are going up to the top, and this is the friction between the domains. If something has not been done, there is a friction. What shall we do? We shall manage data. We shall understand what our domains actually produce, and they have to produce the data product. I don't know how to call it else. I mean, this is data product, a small box container where all the things needed for the operability of next domain have to be given to this domain actually with a smile. You have to understand that they will come to you with this box and bring you the input data to work with. So data driven is when every stakeholder at the right time gets clear and precise data that it needs, and this is the most important point about this system, because if the domain is not responsible for what it is producing, then there is no sense in it. We're not sure what we actually get, and that's why we're not sure what we have to give away. So this is a very good representation of the life itself in our big data society. Domain is one unit of life, like a cell in a big ecosystem which can be scaled up, evolve and grow. And we understand that this cell has to consume high quality data, and it contains inside itself all the necessary tools, business logic, infrastructure. And the first definition of DDD is that it's distributed decentralized system without dependence, like input-output. We don't have to wait for another team, agreement or approval of 20 million other people. We have to resolve all the problems inside our team. We need to have all the tools, all the necessary specialists inside this team. Then we concentrate on our data flow and resolve all the problems. DAAP and DAAS. So data-driven approaches are multiple, and between these two domains, these are the main competitors, but in the next couple of years there will be 100 more. But DAAP is data as product, DAAS is data as a service. So normally we exchange in DARP, we exchange data as is without processing them, and in DARS we process some amounts of data. We understood that based on the temperature per year, I can forecast temperature of tomorrow, and we are selling the data, trading the data. We are just collecting big amounts of data and selling you the result. That's what many companies do, because data should have some value. That's important. We don't have any uniform assessment of the value. In every case, the value will be different and assessed differently. Of course, it's a difference between costs and profit, but that's important. That this is a very important component of data, and we have to understand the benefit we get from it. D5.
I just want you, like in the previous case, show you that you probably know all about it. You probably know that microservices conquered the world about 10 years ago. It doesn't happen very often these days. There's a monolith in charge of everything. This is the DDD in action. Don't worry, I'll use this picture for many parts of the presentation. As a person who likes architecture, I noticed that it happened several years ago when we spoke at one of the conferences about data machine. For 40 years, we have been working with the data and planning for it to be in the single case, single place. I am the monolith storage. This turned into data lake at some point, but the creator of the data lake added to his model the water garden approach.
Пришла идея, ребята, а почему мы такие же?
But when we thought that why are we keeping all the eggs in one basket, particularly now when we have terabytes of data in every day, there is an omelet in the basket. We don't have time to keep the relevant documentation. We understand that it's big and big stream. We're starting to drown. So we decided to move to the data mesh. It's the same idea, but we decided to divide the storage between our teams. Let's say it's a medical agency. We have applications. We can take a data container with 50 different applications. There are millions of cases like that, so there's a chance that, first and foremost, data can be divided, and if you cannot divide them at its level, we can use the special data platform, special domain that sends data and services in the same containers, like boxes, to others. Consequently, it reflected on the management. Many other agencies show that they divided in their departments into competing domains. Think about it. Maybe it's coming to you. There's a federal support, regulations, KPIs, conditions. There's a budget that is distributed, but basically it is the federal management that is curtailed, and they receive the maximum responsibility. It's important to keep the historical connections. even though there are people who want to generate new ideas. Remember American Union with paths made by students, and they put asphalts on that. This is actually the DDD, the management in action. The clear-cut understanding of the tasks requires certain limitations. The teams must be protected. They need to be able to solve their own tasks. You don't have to have regular meetings that held every often. I really like the two-way competition, two-side competition. It leads to evolution. Domains while competing between each other, decide how to ship a product, a more quality, high-quality product, faster. It assumes more budget and gets better. Thus, we get better domains. Inside the domains, why it's double-sided? It's both internal and external evolution. Inside the domains, there will be people who will be influencing the development of the domains. The team of up to 10 people means that these 10 people train their skills and achieve concrete results, each doing their own job. Why do we need this? We understand it's a global movement inside the volcano. The magma will be reaching us for a long time. What can we do? I singled out three big things with three main explanations. The first thing we can do is we can seed products in our projects. Guys, please, if you have huge tasks of remaking your storage, we can always find a small product that we can multiply and resell. We have a small team that had to check the showcases, but they were short-staffed, and they actually made a program, made a software that was later used by 200 people who also wanted to check similar things quickly. The budget for a single project was limited, but if you sell the same product 1,000 times, the budget is unlimited. Please sell and resell it, improve it, and evolutionize. If you see some actions that you do regularly that you can digitalize and you can later sell, please do it. Division between problem and tasks. It's a difference between the middle and senior management. From MVP to roadmap. Indeed, we come up with the MVP on the way of our final result. And here we can create a roadmap, enrich it somehow, develop it, and sell it better. This time we're going back to the competition and evolutioning.
So, domain analysis is very important. Also, revision of interdependencies, because it might include a lot of coordination, approvals, a lot of interesting things, and also restrictions in the dependencies. It would be very nice to make it inside a team to make everything very specific without any extra complexities. And also communication metrics, we have to limit it. We have to understand which interconnections we need, what is critical for us, and what we can reprocess in our domain, and to make it in a comfortable way without any losses. Tell more about that in St. Petersburg, but data are everywhere, and the revolution that made the material, put the material like things at the same level as data, and we understand very well how nice it is to be in the virtual world, in the data field. And also the importance and the value of data is very important. So the flow of data which contains nothing good for us, so we can make a small tributary, small data flows in order to get some profit from that, to control them and to get some profit. And awareness, understanding the value of every flow, it might help us and help us to involve the data. So that's exactly what's happening now. So correspondingly, in this row we get the DARs, etc. And in the near future there will be even more of them. And okay, I'd like to make a final conclusion. So we have a lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of different tools, orders, requirements over us. Sometimes it's very difficult to cope with that. So sometimes we have to be aware of what's happening around us, vector of movement, vector of evolution, follow the flow, but at the same time we shouldn't be stuck as a bee or a fly in the honey, but we should really act locally. We should really define the part, the area, the domain where we can really organize, making up a beautiful system. And this conclusion, I think globally act locally, I think it's a motto of analysts, of all analysts, and we have to apply that. And the only thing I promised before the conference, this is understanding of the issue that practically all we do, it's originated 2000 years ago when all this story started. So in the picture, as you see the roads of the Rome Empire, and its motto was divide and rule, which supports the DDD, divide and rule, and data driven, which Caesar built after conquering this or that area. So I think we will need his skills, but in the other context, we have to understand just that this is the context of data, teams, and management. Thank you for your understanding. And
I like your presentation, thank you very much. But we need to talk about the context. So my question is, do you have any data storage? All these entities that are applied, and maybe do you have some glossary there of terms that you use, and you apply them in your storage? I think you also have it, it's called glossary. It's probably has to do with monolith, as far as I understand. It's like general glossary. No, how, based on your experience, how much do you use these terms? I mean, all the analysts know about hexagons, or do you mean that in the storage you work with a limited context? And we have 14 projects running. Of them, I call 4 or 5 being an innovator. Some of them work with the storage, and one of them is data mesh. It's a new topic. Very few people work with it, but it is there. Something's happening with the screen. Indeed, we can divide these subtasks, and inside a concrete domain group, we can work on a concrete glossary. We have joined databases that influence the inside of the domain, and our teams come up with their own language and understand the idea, and they need to assume the responsibility. They create data that would support the DD regulation. The data scientist and data engineers being more advanced, or is the product owner who copes with all the tasks on their own? What do you think about it? Why is it this way? why there are more people like that in Russia. I think they're not using exactly this job because people doing this job, they're prone to do mostly analytical work. We can call it whatever you want, any names you want, but anyway, they would like you to understand the changes. This is what an analyst do. An analyst does. Thank you. Thank you. Do you have any more questions? So divide and rule. Okay, you can say that you want to rule everything. Sometimes you need a monolith. Indeed, there are effective teams that use the monolith, having up to 20 team members. But if there are thousands of people in the company, you need to be thinking globally and acting locally. Let's end with the slogan. Thank you very much for coming. I was glad to see all of you. Thank you.